Alright guys, welcome back to a brand new video. This is Web Dev Journey, and today, dude, I said that so slow so that way my brain could catch up with me, man. Right now I'm super tired. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about implementing. We're not going to only be talking about, we're also going to be implementing the full image system or uploading system, alright, for images. Now obviously this is for this project, but we're going to be laying it out in a way where it's going to be, you're going to be able to just to use it anywhere you want, any project that you want. It's just copy and paste. So it's not going to be intertwined with this just one project. You could literally just copy and paste it and put it wherever you want. That's the goal for this. We're making a system so that way it's not tied to anything. All right. Anyways, first of all, I do want to clear up one thing from last video. Last video we were talking about how we're going to do this, and you might remember this diagram right here where we have the client going to the server, right? Server, and then we have the S3 up here, and then the DB, right? And then X, and then X being sent, or just the image, right? Image being sent over here, we get URL, and then we upload the new X, right? You remember this, right? All right. I forgot to mention one thing about this whole system, okay? Let me actually clear this out so that way, let me bring this over here so that way I could have it better. All right. So everything was true except for one thing, okay? Or I did not explain one thing very well. S3, and then here it is, the DB. And X is still the same thing, you know, X is going to equal message, and then creator, and then the image, right? I'm not even writing right, but you know what I'm talking about. So we're passing, so right here in the client side, the client side is, all right, so when you're dealing with images, and if you send an image to the server side, the server has to process that image. It's going to process that image, and we're trying to avoid that. The reason why we want to avoid the server processing an image is because, remember guys, it's an image, so it does take a while. They're pretty big files, right? And we're not dealing with a 40 by 40. This could be an image that's, you know, 4K resolution or 4,000 by 4,000 pixels, whatever, right? It's an image which with a pretty hefty size. We're not limiting that image whatsoever, so you can put whatever image size you want to. So if the server has to process that image, bro, it's going to boggle down our server. It's going to use up a ton of resources just to process that image. So what we need to do is avoid that altogether, okay? All right, so in the last video, I did say that the server is going to be communicating to the S3, right? But we're not going to be sending the image from the server. We're actually going to be sending a request to the server saying that, hey, we're about to insert an image. Can I get a pre-signed URL? Basically, this URL, that S3, this is a pre-signed. Dude, I don't know how to spell signed. Whatever. I just forgot how to spell. I've blanked out super bad. Anyways, this is a pre-signed URL. Basically, what this means right here is that they're sending out a URL where we could actually save an image to this URL. This URL does not have the image. This is just a pre-signed URL that Amazon gives us that says that, hey, here's a URL to basically, here's the path that you want to save your image or send your image so that way we could save it. So this is a pre-URL, all right? So the client asked our server, my server, right? It's going to ask the server, hey, we need a I'm going to say pre-S for pre-signed URL, okay? We need a pre-signed URL. So in that case, the server is going to request a pre-signed URL to the S3. We're going to get a pre-signed URL back, and we're going to send back that URL, okay? And by that time, the client is going to use that pre-signed URL. It's going to use it, and it's going to say, okay, we have it. Now we're going to send the image. Let me over here. We're sending the image, going back to the S3. We're going to be sending the image now to the S3, right? And that's it. It actually did save it. S3 doesn't give back nothing. All we want the client to do is send that image with that pre-signed URL, save it into the S3. Now the S3 has that image saved, right? And all we're going to do, the client knows exactly where it's saved at. So what we're going to be doing in the client is when it goes to the server, when it talks to the server, it's going to be sending out the modified X, which is going to be the message, the URL that the client knows now where that image is saved, the URL and the creator, right? So now the client is going to be sending over the X, and then the server is going to be sending over the X to the database. So I hope this makes sense. I mean, at least at a high level view. We're going to be going over it, obviously, but yeah, I'm just letting you know. All right. All right. So let's get started, because this is going to be a very, very, very long video. All right. So the first thing we're going to be doing is messing around inside the client, where we do need to have a button or an input for our images, right? We need to click on this input. We could browse our computer to get the image what we want, and then bada bing, bada boom, we're done, right? So right below text area, we're going to add an input, and the type of this is going to be equal to file, and we only want to accept with this input. We only want to accept images / whatever extension. So I'm gonna say star. So image / PNG, JPEG, GIF or GIF, however you want to pronounce it, right? And then we also want to keep a state on this. So I'm gonna create a state over here. It's going to be image, a state of image, and we're gonna set image. So over here, I'm gonna say on change, setting the E, passing in the E. We want to set image to e.target, and when you I'll just say e.target, so that way you know exactly what's going on. So let's actually log out image, so that way you see what's going on. Control save, and let's give this a go. Before we do that, I forgot. Since the way my CSS works, it's pretty crap. I do need to add a style into this crap. I know, man. I know, man. I know. And I need to have position. We're gonna set that to absolute, so that way we get a peek of it. You're gonna see what I'm talking about when I say peek. All right, let's just give this a go now. All right, if we open up our refresh the page tweet, here's that peek. You see that peek? If we didn't have that, then we wouldn't even. Check this out. Oh, right here. See that? We wouldn't even see it. Anyways, we have that peek now. So if we choose a file, let's choose a file. I'm gonna choose this, whatever this is. Open it up, go to console, and you can see this input. Whoa, why do I have the actual e.target, right? But God, the actual file that it saves it is under .file, okay? .files. All right, so let's save that again. Let's try this one more time. Let's go to tweet. Let's choose file. Give me this, whatever this is. Open up, and you do that file list. So the file list is actually an array, and the first element is the actual data that we need. It gives us things like the name, the size of it, the type, and the type and the name. Those are the two things that we are going to be needing, okay? So with that said, what I'm gonna do is to ignore the 0, or just to get the first element. What I'm gonna do is say files and then brackets, grab the first element of the array, and there we go. Now we have just the image, all the data for that image. Now, that was the first step. Let me get rid of this. Second step is we have to create a bucket for our application, an S3 bucket. Condor, this is for you, bud. Let's create an S3 bucket and figure these things out, all right? So let's go to the browser. Go to your AWS Management Console. All you have to do is type in aws.amazon.com and you will grab it, okay? So go here. Once you're here, go to S3, or you can simply type for that service. Type it in services, type it right here, S3. What we want to do is create a bucket. As you can see, I was playing around, and this is going to be a good overview. I will be using this so that way you know exactly what I'm talking about in the future anyways. So let's create a bucket, and you do need to give it a name. What I'm going to name it is Twitter-clone-OG, the original. All right, it has to be unique, so hopefully this is unique enough, which it is. Good. Click on next. Click on this. We want this bucket to be private. To be public. See that right here? Disabling block all public access may result in this bucket and objects within becoming public, which is what we want. We want this bucket to be public. Obviously, we're doing images. This is images for tweets and for users. So anybody that's logged in could, or knows about this bucket, could get all the images that they want. And just click on I acknowledge and then hit next and hit create bucket. Awesome. Now we have a bucket. The next step is to create policies and users. Okay. Now this is one thing that people do get confused on. Policies is just rules tied to a certain service. Basically, for the example, for this bucket, we're going to create a policy, a rule that saying that only whoever has this rule tied to him, whatever user has this rule tied to them, could only manipulate things within inside this bucket. You cannot manipulate the whole AWS account. You can only manipulate this bucket right here. That's the policy. Now the users, it could literally be users, or it could be applications. In this case, our user, we're going to be creating a user, and this user is going to be literally the Twitter clone application. Like I said, users can be applications, and we're going to be creating a user for this application. So first of all, let's just start doing it so that way you might get a sense of what I'm trying to do. Click IAM, and you want to open this. Type in IAM, and you want to open this another tab because you're still going to need access to some information in here. All right, so first thing we want to do is create a policy. So click on policies. So we're creating a rule, that is it. And we're going to say create policy, right? And basically this policy, the rule, we need to choose a service. What service do you want to create a policy for? The S3 service. And then for right now, actions, we're going to allow this policy to do whatever they want with this S3, right? All S3 actions. You could list, read, tag, write, permissions management, whatever you want with this bucket. I don't really care. For right now, let's just click on that. And so there you go. All right, now resources. We do need to take notice on the bucket and the object. Now you do need to learn that in AWS, when you say file, it means object. So right here, when it says object, it's just a file. So if you want to manipulate a file in AWS, you want to manipulate an object. I hope I made sense, right? Files, AWS, files are objects, okay? So let's start with the bucket. We do need to add a ARN because this rule is tied to S3 buckets for right now, right? We only said S3 buckets, but we want to tie it to a specific bucket. And in order to do that, you need to click and add ARN. It's going to tell you to enter in the bucket name. And that was, click on that right here, Twitter clone OG. Paste it and then add it. So now this rule is only applying to the bucket Twitter clone OG, which is great. Now for the objects, okay? Basically, all the files that are going to live inside this bucket, we also want to apply the same rules to the objects inside this bucket. So we're going to add ARN, bucket name is going to be Twitter clone, and we're going to do any object. Basically, any file within that bucket, you could do whatever you want with it, okay? So say add, and there you go. Let's click on review policy. We're gonna name this, I'm gonna name this policy S3 slash Twitter that slash clone. All right, create policy. All right, so if you type in S3 right here, you should see your S3 Twitter clone right there. All right, now we have a rule. Basically a rule that you can manipulate anything within the bucket or the bucket itself. Nothing else. That's good. Now we're going to create a user. We're going to add a user. The username is going to be called Twitter-OG. And we only want this user to have access ID, so that way we could use the AWS APIs, or in this case the SDK. We only want this. If you do this, that means that they're going to have access to the console as well, meaning that they could delete users, they could do whatever they want, which that's not the case. We only want them to have APIs. That is it, an API or access keys and secret keys. So I'll click on next permissions, and this is where we want to add that rule, that policy that we set up. All right. So in send permissions, you're going to click on attach existing policies directly. You're going to search up S3 or whatever you named it. I named it S3 Twitter clone. Grab that. And we're going to be attaching this policy, this rule to this user. Now, this is a security measure, obviously. So now this user can only do things within this bucket or the files, the objects inside that bucket, which is what we wanted, right? So if anybody does have access keys to, or has this user's access keys or secret keys, the secret key, they could only just, they could, at the worst, they could probably delete my bucket, which I wouldn't really care. All right, so hit next tags, next review, and then create user. Awesome, we have our user, Twitter OG, and here is our access key ID and the secret access key. Now, these two things, I am going to put it in the .env because we're going to be using it, obviously. So head on, I'm gonna actually put this in another screen so that way I have them both here. So head on to your project and click on the, where's that? .env. It's on our server. Where's it at? It's down here. .env. And I already have someone here, but we're going to get rid of them. So the access key, just, copy paste it, access key. And then our secret access key, copy this. Now, the secret access key, obviously, you do not want to share this with anyone, anybody. Do not share it. This video defeats that purpose because you can see it right here, but rest assured, it's not going to be live anymore once I upload this video. So control save this. Now you have the access key ID and secret access key in the .env file. Now, going back over here, we don't really need this, but I am going to leave it up just in case something slipped my mind right now and later on I'm like, God damn it, why? So anyways, let's go back to our code now. Now, we have the access key and the secret key. Now we can start doing stuff with AWS, communicate with our AWS, right? So we do need to add in a module, CD server. We need to add in a module that's going to let us, communicate with AWS, and that is called npm I AWS-SDK. This is a module that's going to let us communicate with them as well. Oh, Control C, Control C. And let's add in UUID, and you'll see why I'm adding UUID. All right, let's get rid of all. Well, all right. So this is the part where we're going to start adding in the what's it called? Or this is the part where we're going to start doing the image system in the backend. Okay. Now, like I said, I want this image system to be as, what would you call it? Portable? It's not portable. Reusability. We want to reuse this code that we're about to write in any project that we want, and that's the mindset that I have right now. So with that said, I am going to create another route, and it's going to be called another folder. We're going to call it uploads. You can call it whatever you want. Uploads. or I'm just say upload, right? Inside upload, you already know index.js. Create another file, index.js. And let me actually copy one of them. Copy this, paste it, and we're gonna get rid of all of this except for this, because we're going to be using this just like that, and get rid of this. We don't need this. We don't even need params. We also don't need the cache. All right, but we are going to need those new modules that we installed. So const AWS, we're going to set that equal to require AWS SDK, and then const UUID is going to equal to require UUID, and I'm gonna just grab v4 because I'm actually just used to using v4 at this point. I don't know why. You don't have to, but I'm just super used to it. Okay, now before we get into like talking about writing the code to actually get a pre-signed URL, you do need to understand a few things, okay? So let's actually go back into our bucket, our bucket right here, and I'm gonna actually upload an image. I just want to upload something really quick. Let's get this. Open, upload. All right, let me click on that, and this is what I wanted you to look at, okay? And don't worry, it's going to be access denied. So I'm gonna just go back. All right, so this is a URL that I actually wanted you guys to look, because we need this. So we got two parts right here for right now, or actually there's a lot of parts, but I'm gonna just split it up to two. The first part is the base URL. This right here, let me actually go zoom in a little bit more. All right. This part right here is literally the base URL, meaning that this and then slash whatever, this base URL is always going to be hitting our bucket. Okay. This part right here is the actual file within our bucket. Okay. Obviously. So right now we have two pieces of data that we could see right now. But the thing is, I want to convert this bucket into like a file system, right? So that way, if user one has tons of images, it's going to be, those images for user one are stored in a folder called, one, right? And for user 552, we're going to have a folder named 552, and inside that folder are going to have all the images for that file. For that user 552, right? So in order to do that, let's go back. We need to create a folder, okay? And I'm just going to say 552 for right now, 552. Save. Okay, here's the folder 552. If I click on it, there's nothing in here, but let's upload an image, because this is some things that I do need to explain. Let's do capture JPEG, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Upload. All right, so if I click on this, take a notice on this URL. The base URL is exactly the same thing. Nothing's changed here, but the thing is, we're inside 552, the folder 552, and then the picture capture.jpg, right? Now, this right here is something that I want you to realize how this works, right? We have the file, the folder, and then the picture. That's how we're going to be doing this, okay? That's exactly how we're going to be doing this. So in our application over here, we're going to create a const. We're going to name it key, and we're going to literally put in, like I said, we want the user ID for our folder and then the picture that they want for our file. So I'm going to add create ticks, and we already know how to get our user, right? So rec.user.id. I know you're used to me saying _ID, but let me just do it. I've been doing it _ID forever, so I'm just leave it at _ID. But you could literally just say ID if you wanted to, okay? All right. So we have that 552, our user ID, right here. The next step is the image name. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I do images or have tons of images, sometimes I would have dog twice, like dog.png, and then later on, in a few weeks or months or probably days, you forget about it and you try to save another image as dog.png, right? You're going to have a duplicate. Well, we don't want duplicates. So we literally do not want the users naming their own files. There's going to be user error, right? There's going to be user error all over the place if we let them let them name their own files, which we don't want. So what we need to do is create a file name for them. And this is where UUID comes in. It's going to create a unique identifier for us. And that's exactly why I wanted it. So what I'm gonna do is user ID slash UUID, and we're gonna call it out, right? And we're gonna just say png.png. And this right here is literally the same thing as this right here, right? Obviously 552 is going to be replaced with my user ID, and capture.jpg is going to be replaced by that random string that UUID gives us .png, right? It's exactly the same thing. It's just that we made it a little bit smarter, I guess. And PNG, guys, for this application, I'm just going to leave it in PNG, man. I'm not even going to struggle trying to. It's not really a struggle, but it's just more work, and I don't want to do that. But you can make it smart enough to say, hey, what kind of file is it? Is it a PNG, JPEG? And don't worry, you'll see you'll see in a bit how you could determine that. But right now, I'm not even going to deal with that. So now I could actually say file name right here. Let's just say, or no, I'm just call it key. Okay, key. Now this is our key. The reason why we call it key is we are going to be making a new instance to connect to that S3. So right before the route, I'm going to say const S3. We're going to set this equal to a new instance of AWS dot. And then what servers do you want to create a new instance of? S3. You even got SMS. Sorry, hit the mic. SMS. You could even do EC2 if you wanted to. Look at that, EC2. But we want the service S3, right? That's the only service that we're going to be using in this project. So S3, and then we do need to pass in the access key and the secret key. So access key, key ID, and then the secret access key. And we already know where that lives, right? It's in process.env, and then I'm just going to copy it because I don't want to make a mistake. Oops. Dot access key ID. Copy this, paste it. This one's a secret access key. Control save. All right. Now we have a new instance of the S3 module where we could start talking to the S3 bucket. And now down here, this is where we're going to use it. So we're going to say S3 dot. We're going to get a get signed URL. Basically, this is a pre-signed URL that we were talking about, right? So we're going to send a request to the AWS saying that we want a pre-signed URL, and we need to give it some information. First of all, it's going to say, hey, look, it's right here. What operation do you want? So basically, what are you trying to do? We're trying to actually insert an image into this bucket. So that operation is called put object. Don't worry, guys. I will leave a documentation, a AWS documentation on like the different things you could do with the SDK, right? What are the operations called? What are other operations called? Basically, just documentation where you could just look at and see what else you could do, right? But first of all, the operation, what we want to do is put an object inside that URL or inside that bucket, right? Second is parameters. Basically, what do we want to do, or what bucket do you want to insert in it? What's going to be the content type, and also what is going to be the key. Now, the key is literally the file name, and we already have that key as up above. Okay, right here. This is going to be our file name. All right. So the bucket, what was the bucket again? Actually, like Twitter OG. Let me actually reset this. Let's go back to Twitter clone OG. Okay, here's the Twitter clone OG. Copy this. Let me go back to my code. So the bucket name is literally called Twitter clone OG. The content type is literally image/PNG. Like I said, we're only doing PNGs. And then the key the file name is going to be the key we just created upstairs. This. Basically, the key is like, where do you want to save the image, right? And like I said, we want to save it inside a folder and then the image name. So control save this for right now. And then right here, the last thing that we need, oh, not right there. The last thing that this function gets, you see right here, we have the operation, we have the params, and then the last thing is the callback, which takes in the error and then the URL, right? So callback, which is going to be the error first of all, and then URL. And then for right now, we're just going to say res.send. We're going to send out, I'm going to send out an object. We're going to send out the key, so that way you can see the key, and we're going to send out the URL, the thing that they gave us back, all right? Control save this, and let's try this out. So let's go back to our browser, and the server lives in localhost 8080. Oh, wait, before we do that, man, I almost forgot. This is a new thing, so we do need to tie this in the index.js. So over here, Control D, uploads, and it's in the upload file, and ours is going to be upload, and we're going to be using the uploads route, and we're not passing in param, so it doesn't really matter. All right, control save. Hopefully nothing went wrong. No, okay, everything's great. Let's try it out. So localhost 8080, and it's going to be /upload. So here we go. We're actually sending this out. So check this out. It's pretty cool, right? We have my user ID, which is right. This is the file or the folder, and then inside that folder is going to be our image. But right now, obviously, it's just a key as a string. We haven't even done anything to AWS. But check this out. This URL right here. This URL is basically saying that, hey, this is going to be the URL where you're going to be saving that image, which is correct, right? Look at this. Here's our base URL right there, and here's our file structure. My key, my user ID, and then the file name. Right? And then this is some other stuff that AWS needs to have, so that way you're saying that, yeah, this was a pre-signed URL, this is secure, so go ahead and save it, okay? But we have now a key, which is our file name, which is the path of where we want to save the image, and then the URL on where you actually want to save the image, okay? All right, so far, I'm gonna recap right now. So far, we've made it where React could actually grab an image. We haven't sent that image anywhere, it just grabs an image. And then we created our bucket, our S3 bucket in AWS, and then we did our pre-signed URL. We created a route for a pre-signed URL, okay? Now it's time to tie everything together. Get rid of this. So the first thing we're going to be doing is, let's go inside of our client. We're going to be focusing things in our client side, right? So in our client side, where is it at? Our source components, we're going to be needing the card, and also not the tweet form for right now. Oh well, yeah, that open. All right, first of all, let's try to save the image to the bucket. Any image that we want from our file from this application to our bucket. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be needing is where is it at? The tweet form. The tweet form, we have this post tweet. This is where when you hit that submit button, obviously it's going to try to submit that tweet. But in here we have the image, so we need to pass that in here as well in our post tweet. Control save. Now in our services, API service, our post tweet, we're going to have an image now. And here it is. Now, remember on the diagram where I said that the client is going to ask for a pre-signed URL? This is where we're going to be doing it, right here in this post tweet function. And this does need to be async. All right. So the first thing we're going to be doing is const, I'm going to say image conf config image config, right? For some reason that looks weird. Anyways, const image config, and the first thing we're going to do is ask for a pre-signed URL. So we need to await, and we're going to be calling API And you might be wondering, why are we calling API? Doesn't API have a base route or a base URL? You're right, but we could always, override it. So right now we don't want to override it because we're going to be grabbing a pre-signed URL from our server, which is api.get, and it's going to be /upload, right? That's the route for our, for our pre-signed URL. All right, now this const or this image config is going to have that key and URL that you saw previously, okay, which is the things that we need. Now, the next thing we need to do is actually send off the image to Amazon, okay, or the S3 bucket. So what we need to do is await API dot. We need to put, this is a put method because we're going to be putting something into the S3 bucket, okay? Now, this is where we're going to be overriding our base URL. Now, that base URL is that pre-signed URL that we got back from image config. So, image config, and you already know when you're using Axios, it stores everything in data and then the URL. This is the pre-signed URL, right? And then we want to actually send off the image that we passed in from our form. And then, last thing, I promise, is going to need headers. Amazon wants to know what kind of headers, or it wants to know the header that they want is the content type. So we're gonna have, say, headers. Here it is right here, headers. And we're gonna say content type, content dash type. We want the content type. Remember, the image that we sent in has the name and also the image, which the image is image/png. It already has that content type. So what I'm gonna do is say image dot type, and this is going to give us the image type. Okay. Control save. And right now I'm gonna comment this out because I really don't want to post this to the database just yet. I just want to see if this works. So right now, let me explain what is going on. Right now, we're grabbing that image config. Remember, we're calling our route, that upload route, to get that API or the pre-signed URL. All right. Now what we're doing in this line or this bit of code is we're sending the image, the actual image that we chose, off to that pre-signed URL so that way it gets saved there. Okay. So if everything goes well, this should work. So let's try this out, okay? Let's go back. Let's go over here. Let me actually get rid of all this. I'm gonna just actions. Where is it at? Delete. There we go. We have nothing in this Twitter clone OG. We don't have no files in here, okay? So let's go back to our files or our project tweet. Let's create a image. Yeah. And I'm gonna just type nonsense because it doesn't matter. We're not gonna save it in a database. I'm gonna hit submit. So once we do this, we should be able to save this image to that S3 bucket. Submit, and whoa, we get some errors. Surprise. You already know there's probably gonna be errors, man. You already knew. All right, it's not big of a deal. This is just a course policy error. That is it. It's not that big of a deal. If you don't know course, just look it up. It's pretty simple to understand, but this is the course issue. Basically, in our bucket, we're not telling our bucket saying that, hey, allow the origin of localhost 3000 to be able to put stuff inside this bucket. Right now, everything's disabled. Nothing could get in and out. We're on shutdown mode, right? We want to open it up. We want to open this bucket up, okay? Via courses. So the way we do that is go to the bucket, go to permissions, go to course configuration right here, and then I'm gonna just copy this and paste it. And I will have this in the description down below, so make sure to check that out. But here's our course rules, okay? These two doesn't really matter. I mean, it'll add it for you. But this right here, this is a course rule. Basically, this first one is saying that, hey, allowed origin is everyone. The allowed method is the get, and allowed header is everything. So basically, anyone could get anything from this bucket, okay? Could get an image, could get a file. It doesn't really matter. Now down here in our course rule, here's another course rule. We have two courses rule. So our allowed origin is localhost 3000. Check this out. HTTP localhost 3000. Our allowed method is the put method. Okay. So localhost 3000 is the only place you could actually put or add things to this bucket, and the allowed header is anything. We could put files, we could put images, we could put whatever we want. Okay. So once you have these inside this course configuration, click on save, and that should be the end of that. Okay, so let's try this one more time. Over here, I still have it up. Let's submit this. And you can see that, hey, we don't have any errors. And if you go back, go to overview, refresh it right here, you're going to see that, hey, look at this. Check this out. Here's my folder, my user ID folder. And inside this folder, we should have that PNG. Awesome. Isn't that awesome? That's pretty great. I would say that's great. Now we have like a file system coming in. Now, if I try to click on this and go to the object URL, as you can see here, object URL, it's going to say access denied. I know, man. It's very, very frustrating when you're first time dealing with Amazon and you're just like, dude, everything's denied. Holy, you're just like getting mad that everything is denied. Yeah, you're right. But they're very easy to overcome. So to get rid of this access denied, all you need to do is let's go to the bucket. Let's go to permissions and then bucket policy. And this is pretty easy. Click on policy generator and select type of policy. Well, we want to do the S3 bucket policy. We want to allow, and we're going to just say everything right here. And what is the action that you want to allow? What do you want to do, right? Well, we literally just want to grab an object. So get, where is that? Get object. It should say get. Here it is. Get object. We want to fetch an object. Get object. Basically, just read it, right? And right here, we need to tell it specifically. Okay, if you're trying to grab an object, and if there are folders inside of it, where do you want to grab that object? Well, basically everything inside that bucket. So basically, the way we do this is go back over here. You see this right here? This is the ARN. Copy this, because it's asking for the ARN. So this ARN is only for the bucket, but we want access to everything inside that bucket. So what I'm going to do is say slash and then star. And this is going to say, hey, everything. Look at that. Key name. It even tells you down here. Given the ARN name, the bucket name, and then slash key name. What do you want access to? Or, right, which is basically everything. Add statement, generate policy, and just copy this. Come over, paste it, save it, and this is going to get a warning message. It's saying that now that you just now made everything public, where everyone could do anything, or anyone could view anything inside that S3 bucket. It's giving you that warning message. Now let's go to overview. Let's try it again, and right here, and check that out. I'm not going to be showing you the image because this is a private project that I've been working on, and I don't want to give any details about it right now. I will in the future, don't worry about it, but I don't want to give any details about this right now. So anyways, as you can see, now we can see our images, which is great, which is a good thing. God, I keep on hitting the mic, sorry. All right, let's get rid of this. Let's go back. Now that we're saving the images to our S3, now what we need to do is actually save the whole tweet, image included, to our database. Okay, so let's go back to and we're almost done. This is the last thing we gotta do. So API service, let's uncomment this, and we're gonna actually be sending. Now remember, the only thing we want is the key, the file name, where it was stored at. The base URL, we do not need that. The reason why is because maybe later on you want to rename that bucket, right? Which is going to be a bad thing if we actually send out the whole URL where that image lives, right? Because it's going to contain that base URL. If you change that base URL, you're going to change all the tweets base URLs to that single thing. No. What we want is literally, let me show you, is the key, which is this last bit right here, the user ID and then the file name, right? That's the only thing we want. So we already know where that lives. It lives inside the image config, right? We grab this, Ooh boy. Paste it. Image. Oh god. Dot data. Dot key. Right. Oh right. And I'm gonna save it inside an image property. There we go. Control save. Now we're sending image, which contains the key. Now this is all we have to do for the front end. Now let's go back to the back end. Inside of our routes, I think we saved the tweets inside of the user index, right? The tweet, yeah, here it is. So right here, now we're grabbing an image back as well. We're getting message and image, and we need to send that image to our service, the tweet service image. And now let's go to our tweet service, and we're going to have an image right here as well. Image, and we need to create new image. All right. Not done yet. We got to go inside our models, our tweet model, and it's going to be the same thing. So copy this, and required, it doesn't have to be required, so get rid of that and rename this to image. And that is basically it. Now you're saving the image, right? I hope you got all that right. So from our API service, since we're sending in the image, we go to index where we grab the image. Now we send that image to the tweet service, which takes care of actually saving that tweet, right, which is the image message creator. But in order to do this, we do need to redo our tweet model and just add that image property in here. Okay, now let's try this one more time, and let's actually open up our MongoDB Robo3T to see if everything is going well. Okay, so let's actually try to do a tweet. Go to React, tweet. This is latte art, and I'm actually going to do a latte art. There it is, our latte art 2.png. Open that up. Let's submit this, and there we go. Let's open up our Robo3T, refresh, go to tweets. It should be the last one, and boom, there it is, our image, our key, right? Now we have that key of where it lives. So the very last thing we gotta do is, if I refresh the page, we're not gonna see that image, obviously, right? We don't see this. It should be right here. We don't see it. So the last thing we gotta do is display that image, all right? So that's very, very simple. Going back over here, this is going to be in the client side, nothing to do with the server no more. In the client side, it's in the card, right? The card is where we contain all that. So this is where we're going to be showing that image, but it needs to be passed in as a prop. And the only places we're using this card component is in the page's home and profile. So in home, I'm gonna create an image. We're gonna be setting that equal to tweet, because we already know that it lives inside tweet.image. You should know this already. .image. Copy this, copy, save it right there, and then in the profile page, I'm just paste that sucker in there as well. Get rid of all of this. Now in the card, we're going to have an image now, image, and simply enough, down here, right below the message, this is where I want to include the image. So I'm gonna do an expression. I'm gonna say if there is an image, then just where's the ants? Then just spit out an image tag with the source. We're going to get into the source in a bit, and then alt is going to equal to, I'm just say image. You should always have an alt, guys. Always have an alt. So the source. What is the source? Well, remember, we need that base URL, and that base URL, I forgot already what it was, but let's just go back, go to our bucket. Here it is right here. So I'm just grab all of this and including that / at the very end, because remember, our key does not include a /. And then right here, I'm going to give it the image. Remember, the image is the key, which is going to have the user ID and then the image. So if I control save this now, let's look at our project. Boom! Oh, don't you just love that? I smacked my ass, and I will smack yours for doing a good job. I don't know why I said that. I honestly don't. But, man, dude, it makes me super happy that we got this, man. We actually did it. This is great. This is awesome. I love it. And that, my friends, is the end of this video. Woo! Give yourselves a pat in the back because we did it. We actually finished the image system. You see how easy that was? Not like I said that what's it called? Let's go back and actually talk about something in our server side. Where is it at? In our routes, upload index. All right, the PNG. Remember the thing where I said that you could make it get smart and figure out what file it is, if it's a PNG, JPEG. Remember, all that stuff is right here in, let's go back to client, source, API service. All that stuff is inside the image that we sent in. Remember, image type right here. We actually set the image.type, which is going to contain image / PNG, image / whatever, right? And you could also pass this in as an argument over here, and then catch it in the what's it called? Oh, I'm sorry. Don't put it here. Sorry. Do not put it right here. Right here. Sorry. This is where you're going to get that pre-signed URL. This is where you're going to add that image type. So that way, once it does get passed, you could go back to the route. And then here, you're going to grab it as a parameter, obviously, and then figure out if it's PNG or whatever, and then just change the extension and then the content type to the correct one. I make it sound simple. It really is. It's pretty easy, but it's just tedious. That's why I don't want to do it. So, anyways, guys, that was it. Super happy. Again, a round of. My kid is watching me. He's like, "What are you doing?" Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate you guys watching my videos. I really do appreciate it. And please, if you have any questions about this image system, the one we created, leave a comment down below. Subscribe and leave a like if you learned something. Leave a like. Hell, leave a like regardless if you hated the video. Please leave a like. I'm saying please. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. And I will see you in the next video, which I don't even know what we're going to be doing. Oh, refactoring, maybe. All right. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate it. So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video.